Okay, let's dive into an absolutely fascinating hypothetical that completely reimagines modern history. Think about it. What if the United Kingdom officially dissolved its sovereignty to become the 51st state of the US? The sheer scale of what this would mean is staggering. In this explainer, we're going to look at the data, the constitutional hurdles, and the global fallout of turning the ultimate special relationship into a literal, binding union.
It would literally be the most massive, peaceful geopolitical merger in human history. Whether this was sparked by Winston Churchill's sheer desperation back in 1940 or driven by the post-WW2 sterling crises, the origins don't really change the outcome. By 2026, a United States that actually includes the British Isles would completely upend the world as we know it.
To wrap our heads around a shift this massive, we'll look at 5 key areas: the ultimate geopolitical merger, shattering American politics, the fate of royalty, building an economic juggernaut, and finally, reshaping global power.
Section 1. The ultimate geopolitical merger, a radical historical pivot.
Section 2. Shattering American politics, the demographic takeover.
Adding a nation of this size, it doesn't just tweak the system, it completely rewrites the rules of electoral math. Right now, California is the most populous state in the U.S. with roughly 38 million residents. But the United Kingdom sits at 68 million. The new state of Britain would instantly eclipse California, becoming the most populous state by an absolute landslide.
So, what does a population of 68 million actually mean for Washington? Well, it means 75. Based on current metrics, the UK territories would command roughly 75 seats in the House of Representatives. Overnight, this creates the single largest, most influential voting bloc in Congress. A unified British delegation could effectively make or break any piece of domestic American legislation.
And honestly, the Senate math is even wilder. If the UK joined as one single giant state, they'd get the standard 2 senators, just like Wyoming or Texas. But what if they were admitted as 4 distinct states? England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Suddenly, they gain 8 senators, which would radically shift the absolute balance of power in the upper chamber.
Then there's the race for the presidency. Bringing in 75 to 80 new electoral votes completely tears up the map. Future presidential campaigns would permanently pivot. Instead of solely courting voters in the American Midwest or the Sun Belt, candidates would be forced to appeal directly to the British working class. London, Manchester, and Edinburgh effectively become the most crucial swing regions for the Oval Office.
Section 3. The fate of royalty, a constitutional paradox.
So how does a republic built entirely on rejecting monarchy actually absorb a king? The answer lies right here in Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution, the Title of Nobility Clause. It explicitly states that the U.S. cannot grant titles of nobility, and no government official can accept them. To join the Union, the British monarchy would have to be legally decoupled from the state entirely.
This means the royal family's status would fundamentally transform. They'd essentially be reduced to private citizens. Sure, they would be immensely wealthy historical aristocrats living in castles, but legally, they would function much like an ultra-wealthy American celebrity dynasty. Think of political families like the Kennedys, but with way better castles and zero constitutional authority.
Structurally, the changes to the government itself would be profound. The House of Lords, with its centuries of aristocratic governance, is completely abolished. And the iconic Parliament building at Westminster, it wouldn't be the seat of a sovereign nation anymore. It would be repurposed as a standard state capitol building for the new American territories across the Atlantic.
Section 4. An economic juggernaut, economic hyper-integration.
This merger builds an absolutely unstoppable economic force. First off, the British pound, one of the world's oldest and most traded currencies, vanishes completely. It's fully replaced by the US dollar. More importantly, the City of London integrates directly into the US system. This creates a continuous transatlantic, Wall Street-London financial axis that would effectively control the vast majority of global capital. But this economic integration forces a massive, really polarizing question for 68 million new citizens. What on earth happens to the National Health Service? The NHS is a deeply ingrained institution, and merging it with the American system creates an immediate ideological crisis. You essentially have 2 completely opposing frameworks colliding here. On one side, you have British expectations of a fully socialized state-subsidized healthcare system. On the other, the American model of free market capitalism, driven by privatized healthcare and insurance.
We would likely see decades of intense congressional friction neutrally weighing the expectations of a beloved socialized system against the push from American private insurance companies.
Section 5. Reshaping Global Power, the New Global Reality.
Zooming all the way out, the ripple effects would permanently alter the map. Without the UK acting as a bridge between North America and the continent, the European Union loses its heaviest military neighbor. This forces France and Germany to build an independent European army. And because the US and the UK are now one entity, NATO effectively becomes redundant. Meanwhile, the US military fully absorbs the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force, drastically expanding its global footprint overnight.
With this merger, the U.S. military possesses a massive, permanent geographic foothold directly on the edge of the European continent. The British Isles effectively become an unsinkable aircraft carrier, the ultimate command hub for projecting American power across Eurasia. Geopolitically, the United States becomes a European power in a very literal sense.
By 2026, in this hypothetical timeline, the modern world would no longer talk about an alliance between Western powers, because the two greatest anchors of the English-speaking world would be flying the exact same flag. A reality where the ultimate alliance isn't an alliance at all, but a single, unstoppable union. It really makes you wonder, if history had just shifted slightly a few decades ago, how entirely different would our reality be today?